Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Kim Miller begins now.
Good evening. The Hawks captain has been brought back to earth, apologising for disparaging comments about Tasmania. James Sicily's back down came after he ruffled feathers by saying there was not much to do in the state, which is a major sponsor of the Hawthorn club. His comments sparked a wave of high-profile condemnation.
Seeing the error of his ways, James Sicily apologising on social media last night for any offence caused by his comments about the state.
Because there's not much happening in there, that would be quite difficult. I couldn't imagine myself living there as a young fella.
The Hawks captain calling his views flippant, also saying he loves visiting Tasmania. The state government, who tips $3 million a year into the club's coffers, far from impressed.
I think it's pretty pathetic. I think Tasmanians get pretty sick and tired of just another mainlander looking down their nose at us.
Tim Payne and Matthew Wade both hitting his views for 6. Wade even offering to take Sicily around the state. Footy coaches near and far also backing Tasmania's lifestyle.
If they set their club up in the right way down there, I don't see it as an impediment. I actually see it as a competitive advantage.
It's a beautiful place to live, there's absolutely no doubt about that.
But the Hawthorn player found support from an AFL heavyweight.
You can say he's the captain. He's just telling the truth for a change. We can't keep people on the Gold Coast.
Warning any new team must get it right off-field to succeed on it.
The one way to go broke is to underinvest in the establishment of these things. I don't know if there's any kids at the moment lying awake hoping that they're going to play in Tasmania.
The potential new field also facing more questions. The Premier questioned on who funds Macquarie Point if it goes over budget.
Who will be responsible, essentially, for that blowout if it does go over budget?
Well, I won't get into any hypotheticals. Well, we don't want cost blowouts.
Under existing infrastructure rules, the state government will wear the cost if the cost blows out.
The $715 million proposal will face one final grilling before the Prime Minister's expected weekend visit, with the Public Accounts Committee's investigation returning to Parliament House tomorrow. John Hunt, 7 Tasmania News.
Tasmanian rents are under more stress than anywhere else in the country, according to an annual market snapshot. State and federal governments are now under pressure to ease the crisis.
What struggling households across the state are feeling in black and white. Tasmanian rents are crushing budgets.
Single people who are on job seeker or on youth allowance, for those people there were absolutely no properties in Tasmania at all that were affordable.
Anglicare labelling Tasmania the nation's least affordable market, despite a slight rise in availability, forcing tough decisions.
A gentleman in Devonport who's around 67 on the age pension. The closest affordable accommodation that was advertised was a share house in Sulphur Creek, which is 36 kilometres away.
We can't assume that Tasmania is an affordable state anymore to rent. We really do need to boost up social housing.
Tasmania's public housing wait list currently sits at 4,500 people. The state government wants to build 10,000 social and affordable homes in a decade. But in the first year, only 388 homes were completed.
They're clearly not building enough houses in the required amount of time.
In the meantime, we have tens of millions of dollars specifically in Homes Tasmania for wraparound supports through the spectrum of homelessness.
The federal government was recently advised by its own committee to raise job seeker and Commonwealth rent assistance. It's still unclear if they'll heed those calls in the upcoming budget.
What you're doing is condemning people to ongoing poverty.
There is a strong role there for the Australian government to ensure that Commonwealth rent assistance does keep pace.
The state has its own private rental incentive scheme, supporting 250 families. Josh Duggan, 7 Tasmania News.
Labor claims there's a critical shortage of child health workers in the northwest. It says it's forcing some crucial appointments to be pushed back and others onto telehealth.
How on earth can you determine and assess a child's hearing or their eyesight or any other issues that they might be having developmentally via telehealth?
The Department of Health says the service is experiencing staffing difficulties due to COVID and other respiratory illnesses and is prioritising younger children. The court hearing for Grace Tame's childhood abuser has been adjourned due to a recent medical episode. 70-year-old Nicholas Bester fronted a Hobart magistrate today after pleading not guilty last month to 3 counts of using a carriage service to menace, harass or cause offence. Grace was also in court with support from her partner and family. Bester is bailed to reappear on June 22. A pilot who survived a fatal helicopter crash which killed his instructor says he has little memory of the event. John Osborne fronting the inquest into the death of Roger Corbin, the decorated rescue pilot killed in the 2017 tragedy.
5.5 years since the helicopter crash that killed Roger Corbin. John Osborne recounted the final moments of that fateful flight. The sole survivor telling the court, "I don't remember anything until I woke up, crashed in the aircraft." Hours later, he recalls being in hospital, his face, head and left leg covered in cuts. The pilot emerging relatively unscathed compared to his instructor, who died on impact. Today's inquest heard Mr. Osborne has no memory of the actual crash. He told coroner Olivia McTaggart, "It was my understanding that I was predominantly in control of the aircraft, but it's possible he was manipulating the controls and I was not aware of it." Mr. Osborne addressed Mr. Corbin's family, offering his help and advice to Mr. Corbin's daughter, who is training to follow in her father's footsteps. Another pilot who taught Mr. Osborne at ground school at Rotorlift also gave evidence today. Now working as a rotary pilot for the Royal Flying Doctors Service, Andrew Harrison said Mr. Corbin strayed from procedure because the way he did it was safer. Mr. Harrison also backed the sentiment offered by fellow pilot Stephen Davis, that Mr. Corbin was thorough with his pre-flight checks. The inquest continues tomorrow. Madeline Kerr, 7 Tasmania News.
A West Hobart couple has had a nasty scare after a fire broke out in the back of their house before spreading to nearby rooms. Tasmania Fire Service crews were called to the Dalton Avenue address this afternoon.
Well, the residents were quite lucky in the fact that there was a quick response from crews. Only probably 5-10 minutes down the track we would have been looking at significantly more damage to the building.
Thankfully, no one was harmed, with investigations now continuing into the cause. Getting to class is a little safer for students at Princes Street Primary with a new school crossing. The crosswalk changed locations for safety reasons, but had no ramp for disability access for months.
It's a big problem in the school, pick up and drop off, so we're trying to encourage and look for better ways of actually getting students coming to school.
We'll continue to operate wonderful crossings around Hobart and work with schools with our active school travel plans.
It was jointly funded by the Council and State Government under the Vulnerable Road Users Program. With wintry weather setting in, a Tasmanian mum is calling for better skate facilities in Launceston. Her 10-year-old son is a rising star in Australia's scooter rankings, but isn't able to practice for much of the year.
They're called shredders, and he's one of the best in the country.
I like seeing everyone how good they are at scooter riding and everyone riding together.
Last year, the self-taught talent came 7th in his age group at the National Scooter Riding Championships.
He works really hard. He loves his scooter riding. He does it for fun. It's just pure enjoyment, and it's nice to see him be rewarded for his efforts.
But ageing outdoor facilities are holding him back.
Compared to the other kids with indoor skate parks, boxes, quarters, all those sort of ramps that give you big tricks, Tassie doesn't though.
When even condensation on the ground can spell disaster for scooters, skateboards and BMX bikes, rain on a skate run makes the whole park a no-go zone.
We'd love to see an indoor skate park in Launceston.
Royal Park was last given a ramp revamp 15 years ago. The council today committing to fund skate upgrades in its upcoming budget, but ruling out plans for an indoor facility. Without an all-weather park, Wilfred's family fears it'll have to move interstate so he can follow his dream.
His dream is to be the next Willie, the next big thing in scooter riding, go to Nitro Circus, so I'm doing the best I can to support him.
The council says it'll always encourage a regional approach to providing sporting facilities, hoping Wilfred can kickstart his sporting future. Annie Green, 7 Tasmania News.
Tasmanians are being reminded to check the buoyancy of their boat before hitting the water over winter. Experts say more locals are using their vessels during the colder months. Boats built before 2006 are a special concern for authorities as they don't have an Australian builder's plate that certifies its safety. Owners urge to undertake vital safety checks to ensure they can adequately float.
Really, your boat's the best bit of safety equipment you can have. If that's floating, your chances of survival are great.
Those keeping off the water over winter are also reminded to book their boat in for maintenance. 2 of Tasmania's sporting associations are teaming up to help stamp out sexual assault in the state. Reports rising close to 170% in 6 years. A support service estimates unreported assaults could be triple that number.
It's an ambitious mission, but one worth fighting for. Tasmania's Sexual Assault Support Service striving to rid Tasmania of harm.
We can't do it alone. We can't do it just with ourselves and police. We need a whole community on board around this.
Local sport organisations are stepping up to the challenge, using their platforms to raise awareness about issues including consent.
Well, in Tasmania, consent is an affirmative consent law. So you actually need to be active in ensuring that you have consent before intimacy.
It's really important that we're able to play a role in shining a spotlight on some things that perhaps at times are not often spoken about, perhaps they're a little bit uncomfortable.
Netball Tasmania is no stranger to the cause, partnering with SAS for a 4th year now. Its players will be sporting teal ribbons this weekend.
It's something that we know occurs and perhaps sometimes, behind closed doors, particularly for women, which clearly as a female dominant sport like netball, we know it happens.
Meanwhile, Hockey Tasmania is new to the partnership, but just as motivated to start the conversation. And it's not just sporting clubs getting involved. Hadley's Hotel is hosting a fundraising high tea this Saturday, with the Theatre Royal also putting on a performance surrounding sexual assault. Even this North Hobart Cafe is donating a percentage of its funds to the service.
I really believe if we basically stand behind those not-for-profit, we will be able to fulfil their missions.
Brianna Boylan, 7 Tasmania News.
Tasmania police recruits will be hitting the beat earlier in their careers as an innovative pilot program rolls out. The new training model will see recruits complete 10 weeks of their course in the field while being supervised by police mentors.
I'm looking forward to passing my learning and skills on to the new recruit, as I'm passionate about helping and developing others.
The move will free up more experienced officers to form a permanent special operations group and staffing for the state's new support centres.
These recruits, when they graduate, will actually then move on to the frontline policing areas, so that'll allow us to actually start advertising and filling those specialist capability roles while still supporting the frontline.
The pilot program begins on Monday.
Lauderdale's coach says he's not afraid of dropping players this weekend, but is also wary of making too many changes. The Southern Bombers face a short turnaround after being soundly beat by North Hobart on Anzac Day. Facing a red-hot Kingborough this round, Alan Christensen says they need to improve in a number of areas, but he also wants to give his squad the chance to make amends.
There's the balance of swinging the axe and trying to send a message, but also that we do trust what we've done and what we've done over the pre-season.
Tigers, on the other hand, are flying, conceding just 12 goals in 3 matches. Their coach praising his forwards for their role in the team's defence.
That pressure up the field, I think our forward line's been fantastic this year. Guys like George O'Neill, Jake Williams accepting roles and putting pressure on. And
the two rivals will face off on Sunday at Skybus Oval.
Good evening. Hobart 20 degrees today, Launceston 21, Devonport and Burnie reached 19. Flinders Island our high with 24, the east and southeast with the best weather, unless you wanted wind and showers. Friendly Beaches 23, St Helens 22, King Island and Strawn 20, Lowhead 19 degrees, Lyawini just 11. The band of cloud with the showers tracked from the northwest through to the southeast as the day progressed. That cloud feature also moving over east and South Australia and Victoria. The next front has cloud on the southern corner of WA with more clouds streaming through Central Australia. Tomorrow the low passes to our southwest, helping the winds intensify. A cold front will also be set to cross. Talk about intensifying, those northwesterly winds up to 30 knots, but the west and south will be in the face of 35 to 45 knot winds and a 5 metre swell. So we have a gale warning there between Tasman Island and Sandy Cape, along with the southwest lakes. A strong wind warning for all remaining coastal waters. Hobart expecting 20, a shower or two developing and windy days. 70% chance of a shower for Huonville, 20 also. 21 the top for Campania. Launceston showery and 18, same for Devonport. Winds easing from Georgetown later, a top of 17 with a few showers. Showers for Burnie, 17, Strawn 18 and Wynyard the same. And for the east coast tomorrow, St Helens a shower or two and 20. 21 the top for Swansea and Port Arthur. A couple of showers into the weekend too over the west and Bass Strait, otherwise fine but colder. Similar weather forecast for Sunday, Hobart 19, Launceston 18 and on Monday a light shower in the west extending across the state in the late afternoon. Sunny and 21 in Perth. Showers forecast for Adelaide, Melbourne, Canberra and Brisbane. A sunny 27 on the way for Sydney, fine also over the top end. Partly cloudy conditions at the moment, 16 in Hobart, 15 in Launceston, 16 right now in Devonport. Weather cracking right up, Kim, but it's a week early, isn't it? Agfest's next week.
How true is that? It's a bit rotten. Thank you, Murph. And that is all your news for tonight. Have a great evening, everyone.